the Falcons got some heat in the streets right now. They're sitting 8.5 over at DraftKings. You got to pay a little juice to go over to get to 9 wins. A year after finishing 7-10 in an awful NFC South, the Falcons have kind of garnered some attention. Now, the Falcons had a middle of the road offense last year. However, they did crack the top 10 in rushing offense behind the effective combination of Cordarrelle Patterson and Tyler Algier. So what did they do? They need to improve the defense. They went and drafted a running back in Bijan Robinson with what was that, fellas? Was that
number
8 overall?
Eight, yeah.
Number 8 overall. So again, I'm not hating on Bijan Robinson. My assumption is he's going to be a great player. You'll get 4 or 5 good years out of him, and then he'll be a waste. But they drafted him. Maybe he pops. Desmond Ridder. This is whether or not you want to bet the Falcons or not, everything. It's almost like with the Commanders. It all just hinges upon Sam Howell. Will we see that jump? There was some promise from Ridder. They're going to have to get better defensively, the Falcons, Amal Shah. But let's go ahead and run with this. Atlanta Falcons, we're sitting 8.5.
Yeah, interesting number here. Let's start with the coach, Arthur Smith. I think he's one of the top coaches in the National Football League. Won't get that credit because they're not winning or people don't recognize them. And how many people outside of Georgia are really watching a Falcons game unless their team is playing Atlanta? So I think he's a guy that gets a little bit overlooked. Was formerly the offensive coordinator in Tennessee. Did a tremendous job there, as you guys recall, with Derrick Henry. And if anybody can lead Stephen Tannehill to the postseason, Ryan Tannehill, Stephen Tannehill, I think, was at South Carolina.
Yes.
But to me, he's done a tremendous job. Great play caller. You mentioned the rushing. Last year, they were 3rd in rush yards, number 1 in rushing attempts. But this is where the challenge is for me, guys, with Atlanta and why I'm not a believer in this team who was 15th in scoring offense. They were 31st in passing attempts and 31st in pass yards. That's an alarming number if you're looking at it from a Falcons perspective. And when you look a little bit more in depth about this team offensively, I mentioned they were 15th in scoring offense. You're middle of the pack. But it's a little bit deceptive. When you look at their final 9 games of the year, in 7 of those 9 games, they failed to exceed 21 points. In 6 of those 9 games, they were in the teens or below. That's an alarming number when you look at some of the opponents they faced off. In the 2 games where they exceeded 21 points, they played the Bears, who were ranked 32nd in defense in the National Football League. And then the final game of the regular season where they put up 30 points, it was against Tampa, who was playing nobody in the final game of the regular season. So from that standpoint, they've got to get better on the offensive end. Patrick, you mentioned it. And before I get into the defense, I just want to get your take. The reason why I'm going under on the Falcons is I am not a believer in 2-2 Desmond Ridder. I thought Marcus Mariota's rushing ability, and I know Ridder can move, but Mariota's got far more elite speed than Ridder does. What do you think of Desmond Ridder?
Yeah, the Ridder thing is fascinating because he did show some promise. I actually thought, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, I thought they pulled the plug a little quickly on Mariota. I still like Mariota. I'm a Mariota truther. I know I have issues with my obsession with Marcus Mariota, but you mentioned the head coach. What he wants to do is run the football, and he does a lot of the run option stuff, and I thought Mariota better than Ridder at doing so. So I wasn't a huge Ridder guy even at Cincinnati. Taylor Heineke's his backup, and Heineke just throws YOLO balls in the air, so it's going to have to be a Ridder situation. But if you're asking me right now, and I brought up Sam Howell, so the Commanders and Ron Rivera are hanging their hat on Sam Howell this year, I got to be honest with you, boys. I think I'd prefer long-term Howell right now over Ridder. That's just again, I've got nothing to go off of except one start from Sam Howell last year, but I'll ask you, I'll throw it back to the two of you. If you could start moving forward with Howell or Ridder, which one are you going to take?
Is this question a joke?
You're taking Howell?
I watched Desmond Ridder play at Cincinnati. That defense bailed them, and that running game bailed them out a lot. Sam Howell was electric on that offense. Give me Sam Howell every day of the week.
My take on Ridder in this, it's nothing special at any level. Nothing special. Does he do anything above average? That would be my question. Does he do anything above average? And you're laughing, so my assumption is you're going to say no, big guy.
Desmond Ridder is this is another Mitchell Trubisky situation. Like, people who watch these guys in gym shorts throw like 7-on-7s, they go, "Oh, he's an athlete. He can move. He can do this. The ball makes this sound out of his hand." Like, they make up all these qualifiers of why he's a good quarterback. You know how I know he's not a good quarterback? I've watched him play scared in the NFL and be okay on a loaded Cincinnati team in a weak conference. Like, there's nothing about Desmond Ridder that screams to me franchise quarterback. And those are the only two markers in the NFL. You are either a franchise quarterback or you're not. And if you're not, we move on and find someone else. I actually think if this team plays with Taylor Heineke, with some of the weapons they have with London in another year, they have Kyle Pitts, who they've failed to figure out how to use him in the league, with Bijan at running back, and what I think could be a very solid defense. I think with Taylor Heineke, this could be a decent team. With Desmond Ridder there, he looks like a linebacker running the Wildcat offense.
He complete 4 starts them all, 63.5 completion percentage. Again, he's a rookie, so his head's spinning. I get it. But here's where you start to get worried. And they ran the football a lot, and I'm guessing he wasn't asked to stretch the field, but only 6.2 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. So he was super conservative with the ball. To your point, and to Dustin's point, I see nothing special about the quarterback.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement there. And, at Cincinnati, the one thing that bothered me a little bit with him is he was not willing to stand in the pocket and take that shot. I thought one of the great attributes that Tom Brady had at quarterback was he would stand there and take that shot to the ribs. And Ridder seems to kind of just get out of the way, may throw the ball a little bit early, and that's so important in this league when you're getting pressured. On the flip side, this team defensively, 23rd in scoring defense. Now, they only have 4 starters back from last year: Grady Jarrett, A.J. Terrell, who I like, Lorenzo Carter, and Richie Grant. They've added a bunch of pieces, some names that that will resonate with people: Bud Dupree, Calais Campbell, Lorenzo Carter. And then here's the wild card for me, guys, in the secondary. Jeff Okudah comes in from Detroit. And the reason why I say that is Okudah's been a bust with injuries and just not good play in Detroit. But if he turns out to be what he was even halfway projected to be, then you've got a huge windfall in that secondary if you're the Atlanta Falcons. The strength of schedule is the second easiest in the NFL. That'll bode well for them. They get the Colts at home. They have also Houston and Washington at home. These are all winnable games. But again, for me, I don't care how good your pieces are around you. We talked about this with Washington. If you don't have the proper trigger man, it's going to be a problem. They've got great height. Mac Hollins, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts. I'm telling you right now, this might be the best basketball team in the NFL. But other than that, I just don't see it, guys. 8.5. They've got to get to 9 wins. The division, as we talked about, is probably the weakest in the National Football League. But overall, it's going to come down to quarterback play, and that's what this league has become. And for me, it's a negative with Desmond Ridder. I'm going to go under 8.5 on the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know where you guys come out, but I'm with you. They should have stayed with Mariota.
Totally agree with the under. 29th in run defense. That defensive unit ranked 26th in pass rush win rate. And really, if you think about it, they were dead last in the NFL. A whopping 43.5 of the drives, so of their opponents, finished with a score. I bring that up because that's a bad look for a team that dominated in time of possession. They ran the ball nonstop. The only thing that kept the Atlanta defense from being atrocious in 2022 is they weren't on the field. They go out, you mentioned Calais Campbell. They add Dupree, kind of bargain bin shopping with Okudah and Hughes and Trey Flowers. I think this defense stinks. At 8.5, I'll go under. The only thing saving them, if you want to go over, and we'll talk to Pritch about it, Amal and Dustin will go to you on this one, is just the gosh awful division. That's it.
Yeah, it's their only hope. By the way, I've been watching Desmond Ridder's highlights from the year since I stopped talking last on the show. Didn't listen to a word either of you guys said. I will say this. I think I was a little hard on Desmond Ridder. It turns out he looked a little bit better than I remembered. So instead of a linebacker playing Wildcat quarterback, I'll say he looks like a wide receiver playing Wildcat.
Wait, can I ask the question? And Amal, you're a bit of a Mariota truther as well. What did he do that was so abhorrent? I know it's what he's always done everywhere. He's like Tyrod Taylor. They just don't do those winning plays. They don't take those shots. They're just so conservative in their game.
He summarized it perfectly. Mariota needs to see guys open, almost similar to what you see at the collegiate level on some deep throws. He just won't take certain shots there, but his speed is elite at the quarterback position, and I just think that he's a backup. I just don't like Desmond Ridder as the starting quarterback. That's why I don't.
I was going to say, if Mariota wasn't taking shots, Ridder said, hold my beer, and 6.2 yards per attempt. I guarantee Mariota was better than 6.2 yards per attempt. So, again, the play call, you mentioned the head coach. He wants to be conservative. Yep. He wants to run the football. He's very creative. We saw what he did in Tennessee.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.